I'd like to welcome everyone to today's EstesGroup in Conversation event. I'm Brad Feakes, and I'm the president of EstesGroup. In celebration of EstesGroup's 20th anniversary, we're conducting a series of conversations with some of the friends and colleagues that we've met along the way. My guest today is Casey Currie. Casey's a family man, a professional off-road racer, and a business leader, an executive both at his family business, Currie Enterprises, and the owner of Casey Currie Motorsports. As a professional off-road racer, Casey's notched key wins across what is now nearly a 20-year career, including the Baja 1000, the King of the Hammers, and the 2020 Dakar Rally across the Saudi Arabian desert, which was the first time that an American has won that race. And in his free time, he implemented an ERP system. So today, I wanted to sit down with Casey and discuss his life and his career, his journey into ERP, and the road ahead. And with that, thank you for joining me today, Casey.
Nope, glad to be here. Definitely glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's start a little bit with your racing career. It sounds like, coming from an automotive and a racing enthusiast family, that racing and automotive seems to be part of the Currie DNA. Tell me what it was like to grow up in an automotive family and how that helped kind of forge you into the man you are today.
I would say it started with my grandfather. It was a huge enthusiast of muscle cars and hot rods and Jeeps, and he just loved performance. But at the same time, he was a family man himself. He had 4 kids, so he had to do anything he could to put food on the table. So grew up, with him. My dad and my uncles basically grew up totally building parts and doing whatever they could to make money, but at the same time, drive their passion for basically performance. And with that, Currie Enterprise became in existence when my grandpa worked full time for Taylor Dunn, which makes industrial golf carts. He worked for them full time, and on the side, he was building rear ends to go into those golf carts. And these are industrial golf carts, so they're meant for chicken coops and mining and military, and they're very industrial. But he, with that on the side, he was building these rear ends, and that's where my dad and my uncles, really became the niche of the rear end business. And then from there, when my grandpa decided to retire from Taylor Dunn, he also decided to retire from Currie Enterprise, which basically was a part-time job for him, where my dad and my uncles took over. So from there, my dad and my uncles in 1983, the year I was born, they basically took over the company from my grandpa. And at that time, it was really only doing the industrial stuff. And, with their hobbies being Jeeps and muscle cars and hot rods, they really tuned Currie into being the performance brand it is today. And with that, I got to basically the year I was born, I was the first grandchild. I got to be my grandpa's best friend, and the first shoot up until I was, going to school, I was basically getting babysat by my grandpa and grandma who were retired, and as my dad was doing everything he could to grow Currie Enterprises. So my hobbies and falling in love was at a super young age, and really, I loved everything that my grandpa did, and still do to this day. And from there, my dad and uncles really worked their butts off, and they were grinding really hard to make Currie what it is. And it went from nothing to a lot. And when basically grew up to over 60 employees, and they had a lot of things going on. But with that, I went to college, and I dropped out my senior year because I ended up starting a motorcycle shop that became somewhat successful, and I also started racing professionally. And made the decision that I just felt that everything in life was meant to be. Had parents that blessed it, and took off racing. And then from there, my racing career just started growing and growing and growing, and started traveling the world and racing literally around the world in all different types of vehicles. And just along the way was very focused on the vehicles that I always raced. Somewhat had a similarity to parts that Currie Enterprise sold. So it was very easy for my dad and even my uncles to be very supportive of everything that I did. So my career was based around a lot of the things that my family was into. So from there, up until 2020, I was traveling the world 40 weekends out of the year, and 35 weeks out of the year we were traveling. And then when COVID hit, At the same time COVID hit, I was given the opportunity by my dad and my uncles. The company made some changes, and um, basically my dad took over the drivetrain side of Currie Enterprises. My uncle took over the suspension side. We rebranded that a different brand, and that's when I became involved. And yeah, then at the same time, COVID hit, and I was just able to work and figure out what's going to happen next to Curry. Where
Hmm.
that happened, spent a lot of time behind a computer. There was no events to go to and no customers to go see because the world was shut down. So when you're sitting behind a computer and realizing that a lot of the things that we are doing today are, to me, are out of date. As a young kid, I'm 40 years old, but what I noticed was our computer system was far, far behind what I thought was today's standards. And from there, yeah, I started racing, or after racing, and COVID started opening back up. I kept racing, and I still do race to this day. And but at the same time, I now work at Currie Enterprises full time.
Nice. Nice. So speaking of racing, now I think much of our audience knows you as the racer. I had my hoodie here. I was going through the TSA line the other day, and someone looked at it and said, "Hey, did you watch King of the Hammers?" I'm like, "Oh boy, I like that." It resonates obviously with people all over the place. And tell me a little bit about racing for preparation. Now, when you see in your YouTube videos on your YouTube site, we're often seeing the final product. Like you're in the middle of a race with all cylinders firing, and we don't always see kind of all the preparation that goes into it. Tell me a little bit about some of the tactical or physical or mental prep that goes into a race.
A lot of strategy. So for me, the vehicle that I race is purposely built, and with that, just a lot of design and a lot of process and theory of how I want to do what we do. But when it comes to King and Hammers, I spend about 8 weekends out in the desert preparing as far as pre-running and making sure that I really understand the desert. And then on top of that, the vehicle, we make a list of exactly what we're going to fix, service, prep, maintain. So basically, the trophy Jeep is what I race. Gets bare framed. We sandblast it. We make sure there's no cracks or any tubes moving, and then we put it back together, analyzing every component to make sure that everything is ready to do the job. So for preparation for an event like that, I mean, it was 3 months hard of preparing in the shop before we ever saw it. So, the vehicle is literally torn down to a frame and pushed forward with that. So it's pretty wild to see how much preparation it goes into a 1 day event, because you're right. It took 1 day to go out there and end up breaking. And the failure that took us out of the event wasn't. It actually wasn't a failure. It was, I hit a rock really hard in a bad spot, and when I hit that rock, just it ended my day. So, but with that, there's a lot of preparation, a lot of even for the pit crews and how much gas you're going to carry, and when are you going to fuel, and how many tires, and are you going to change tires, and how many spare parts, where do you want the spare parts to be on the track, and then if there's a problem, how are you going to logistically manage all these people to make sure that everything can be done accordingly.
Nice, nice. Tell me a little bit about your race in Dakar. How did that all come together?
So racing in a car, looking for to do something different for a challenge. I ended up hitting up a team over in Portugal, got the opportunity to race, went over there, fell in love. I ended up actually crashing at my first event, but I was doing very well before the crash, and ended up getting Monster Energy, one of my sponsors, to believe in me going and trying to be the first American to ever win. So we set together a 5 year plan, and we pushed hard. And year one made some mistakes, very rookie mistakes, and learned through those. But year two, put together a fantastic team, with all the sponsors, and studied. Same thing. I did a year's worth of preparation for that 12-day event, and with that, we went out and focused really hard on what it would take to win. And it's the most stressful 12 days I've ever had in my life. That race is the biggest off-road race in the world. People could say whatever they want. I've raced every race that's in the dirt around the world. There's nothing that tops Dakar. It's the stress, the level of professionalism, the competition. It's just at an all-time high.
Hmm. Nice, nice. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Monster, and just for our audience, so I helped Currie Enterprises when they cut over to their Epicor ERP system year and a bit ago. It would have been right around New Year's. You guys have that big Monster cooler right in the middle of the conference rooms, and they stuck me right next to it. So I was within like arm's reach. I don't think I slept for a week and just kind of spent the whole ERP. It was my most jittery ERP system, but memorable for that. So speaking of crashing, when I think about racing, like for racing normies like me, the idea of risk seems very top of mind. For me, if I get a Dodge Charger when I'm renting a car when I'm traveling, if it's got a Hemi, I can barely keep the thing out of the ditch. So for me, the risks that come with off-road racing seem real big. Tell me about kind of those risk factors and how you try to mitigate them.
I think the biggest thing is strategy on, safety is the number one concern. Obviously, I've had some bad wrecks over the years and put myself in situations that sucked. In off-road racing, head injuries are more common than anything else because you're inside of a roll cage that your body is safe. So with that comes your head. So concussions are a concern. I've had some eye issues from crashing so hard that my eyes basically want to leave your skull, which is a gnarly. It was a crazy situation, but I mean, we really try to be prepared. We always safety is our biggest concern.
Mhm.
Obviously, now the desert racing I do, I have a co-driver that has a family that I don't ever want a situation to happen. So we try to be very careful on everything we plan. But with that, we have satellite radios in the car. I have a medic that goes to all the events with me. He's not with me in the race car, but if there was a situation that we had to go to a hospital, somebody knows everything about me and can communicate with the family if needed. But there's just a lot of safety aspects that we really try to make sure that we're doing everything we can to be as safe as possible.
Nice. Nice. Now, do the risks look different now than they did 20 years ago when you were first entering the fray?
I mean, yeah, it's funny. Like, I guess I don't look at it as risky as some people would think it is, but I mean, it's dangerous when it goes bad. So you just try to make those bad situations not happen. But I mean, I don't know. I still want to win so bad that when the helmet goes on, I don't. The mindset is to not focus on that. It's just we're so prepared before the helmet goes on that I feel that I don't put myself. I'm not just going out there recklessly trying to go fast. It's strategized.
Nice. Nice. So you're taking care of all that so you can just focus now at the task at hand.
And no shit does go wrong, so it does
Nice.
happen.
Well, I guess you can't plan for bad luck.
That's right.
So I would say this, I've been in Epicor now for almost 20 years, and you're the first manufacturing executive that I've met who's a race car driver as his day job. So what are the biggest challenges handling these two disparate elements of your life?
Honestly, what's crazy is how similar they really are. And actually, I got told that before I ever worked at Currie Enterprises by a mentor of mine. But basically, a guy came from racing, and then when he transferred over to a business very similar to ours, he said that that racing mentality of doing all the check boxes and the processes and making sure that everything is done right before the finished good leaves is very similar to before the race car takes the start of the race. Is the preparation is key. And you know the transition from all I want to do is win, and I want to be in a for me, I want to be in a position that we're doing everything right, having a very very good ERP system, which learning now ERP system is just a blank canvas. uh, but putting all the processes in, and and learning that from top level down, it matters, right? And everyone has to be on board, and the commitment level to win has to start at the top and work all the way down, and vice versa. Everyone at the bottom has to understand that the roles have to be in place so that everything can happen when it's going to happen.
Nice. Nice. That's interesting that there's that much similarity. That's really cool. So Currie Enterprises, maker of rear ends, component parts, and such, but a family business. And if I was when I was on the website, kind of reading about the business history, it sounds like you evolved from more of a generalist job shop to kind of focusing on high performance automotive components specifically. Tell me a little bit about that evolution and kind of the unique challenges that come from guiding a company with such a deep family history.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest portion. Sorry, my bell's going off for
It's all
lunch.
good.
No, the Current Enterprises. they did a little bit of everything for a long period of time, and then the evolution of performance products. My dad and my uncles had a niche for their hobbies, I guess you could say. They loved everything they did on the day to day. That it was their hobby, right? So all of both my uncles and my dad that were involved in the business, they all had their own hobby, and they brought that like caring and love to work every day. So what they ship to customers is the same way they would build it for their own hot rod or own Jeep or and when it came to mining and industrial, they just brought that performance edge from from what they love to do. And then when I got involved, it's funny, I love racing and I love custom things so much, but once I learned about process and learning that the only way we can give more customers great products was defining really what we're good at. And the hardest thing I had was reports and studying reports to make it where what are we really good at doing and what are really popular things that are on the market that we're missing because I just don't have the right data to see that information. Right before, it was a seat of your pants. Well, this is selling, so we should build those, or we think this is selling, we should build those too. So I would say that on the for Currie Enterprises, the basically I'm the third generation of taking what my grandpa started, my dad and uncles really built up, and now we're evolutionizing into a instead of just being a manufacturing facility that builds high-end products, we're taking the brand Currie Enterprises, and now we're really defining Currie as a household brand that has product in stock and it's ready to go across the country and be in stock for our wholesale distribution channels to be able to give it to jobbers and retail in a more reasonable time.
Nice, nice. That's actually where my head was going in terms of distribution models. Like the dealer model seems to be a big deal with a lot of the industries that work kind of within the Epicor framework. Tell me about your dealer model and how does this work to get its product into the hands of end users?
Yeah, so one of our things, we never really focused on wholesale distribution before I worked here. In essence, it was more of like a manufacturing facility. We would build every customer exactly what they wanted when they placed the PO. So, for somebody that knows those terminologies, basically, the sales our customer would call, whether it would be a big shop or an end consumer, and that day they would start, the process of putting the order into the shop. And now with wholesale distribution, studying the business model, taking out the key products and really putting them in inventory is the fact that we're now inventorying, hundreds of complete axle assemblies across the country. And by doing that through the distribution model, it allows our end consumers to be able to get our product quicker and put them back on the road. So, we're based out of California. It's very difficult. Even if I have the parts in stock ready to ship, if you're in Florida, you're still not going to get the parts for 5 to 7 days. That's just because of shipping, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
a 5 foot long box that's going to go in, it's going to go freight. So it's going to take a while to get there. Now having product across the country, I'm allowing and giving the customers the product they need quicker.
Nice. Nice. No, that kind of reminds me a bit about some of our earliest conversations and the idea of standard versus configurable product. Because
Yeah.
when we were first meeting, product configurator was kind of a big question mark when you were still in the software selection phase when we first started talking. And by the time I re-engaged, kind of by the implementation phase, probably 2 years had passed, and the relative importance of configurable products had shifted down, and the importance of standard product was becoming more and more kind of the thing about your organization. Tell me a little bit about that idea of how that changed to configurable versus standard product evolved over time.
Yeah, the way Curry ran for years was just basically taking configuration of parts and building it how the customer wanted it. Every single one of them. Obviously, we got woken up when basically Epicor stated that anything that's built in the configurator, even if we build a custom configurator, is the fact that the in part isn't something that basically you're going to manage as far as a top level part number because it's customizable. There's so many different variations that the amount of part numbers that you'd create if you created that every single time would be in the hundreds of thousands, right?
Mm-hmm.
The chances of actually getting good data out of there is so slim, and it all made sense. And now looking at it, it's been we're in our second year of this, And we look at it now, and yeah, like taking that business model and actually understanding it, cleaning up what we do inventory by having a non-configured part number system. I mean, it allows us to understand the data better and allows our customer to get a better quality product quicker.
Nice, nice. And I see that, I imagine from a strategic growth standpoint, I see this with a lot of companies. They start growing when they stop trying to be everything for everyone else. They can kind of focus that. And when they can kind of narrow that focus down, that's when growth really starts to happen for them. Are you feeling that same thing with Currie?
Absolutely. I mean, it allows us to have a lot more time. For us, it's just I want to make the product as best I can. So when there is issues and there is problems, it's easier to dissect that problem and fix it. Where when you're doing everything for everybody, you have a problem that you might not see for 6 months, and when you do that every single day because everything is custom, it's hard to you know put the nail on it and actually stop the issue. Where
Mm,
now when we have problems, it's very easy to sit there and analyze it, figure it out, stop it, and move forward with a better quality product.
nice, nice. Let's talk a little bit then, moving kind of from the dealer line to the web line. I see that you guys kind of have a balance of dealer orders, direct orders, web orders. Kind of what problems does Currie solve by offering their product over the web, and where do you see Currie going forward in that area?
I mean, everybody there's customers that want to buy directly from Currie Enterprises, so that way when they have a problem, they can call and yell at us, or if they're happy with the customer service, they can call us and let us know how great it was. But
Mhm.
I always feel that people want to go to the website. We should be the ones that have all the information, and we should be the ones that you can come to our website and get everything that you want from the company. And we truly believe that the website is something that is here to stay. Do I think it's the number one source for everything we do? No, but it has the data for all the end consumers that maybe buy somewhere else, from a job shop or from a wholesale distribution channel. But from that, our website does a lot. It is nice that we have all the information there and do make it easier for a customer to be able to buy online.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was on your website, a lot of time was spent, and we talked a little bit about this, the idea of education as a marketing channel, the idea of all your tech articles, your how-to lessons and such, walking through people through all these different processes. It seems like that seems to be a real differentiator. You're not just trying to sell people products, you're trying to educate them about how that kind of fits into the whole automotive ecosystem.
Yeah, correct. And that's what I want to do. I think before anyone buys, they want to be educated. We are an expensive product, and I mean, and it's top tier. So with that, I want to make sure the customer feels comfortable and understanding what he's buying.
Mhm. No, that's awesome. Now, when I think about you talk about top tier, the thing that seemed to distinguish when I was looking at this from what I call the automotive aftermarket. Quite often, when I think kind of as an automotive normie, I'm thinking of the automotive aftermarket as just replacement parts. You're simply just swapping out whatever died on your car with something new. But Currie's approach seems to be very different. That these parts are not replacements; they're upgrades. That if you're putting in these parts, you're doing something to enhance your vehicle. That seems to be kind of part of Currie's mojo. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what our main focus is not we are not a OEM replacement brand. It's not a set of windshield wipers, and it's not replacing your brake pads. What we're doing is giving you the performance needed to go further, meaning when the road gets too rough, we're going to go further than you would if you were in a stock vehicle. If you put a bigger motor in your hot rod, we're going to be able to handle that power. If you're going to put bigger tires on your Jeep or your car, we're going to be able to handle that power. And for us, when you're that guy looking for that edge or looking to outdo your buddy, or you just want to travel further than anyone else by yourself, no one wants to be left stranded. No one wants to be left broken down. And by utilizing the Curry product, the goal is to get you to be able to go further and feel more comfortable.
Nice, nice. Now let's shift gears just a little bit. Let's talk about your Epicor ERP journey just a bit. Now, for the audience's sake, when I first met you, Casey, it was through our common colleague Eric Kimberling at Third Stage Consult. You were working with them, kind of in the software selection process, trying to compare Epicor Kinetic to some of the other competitors out in the world. And Eric roped me in because Kinetic was a thing that I had done, so we got to chew the fat a little bit about how Kinetic might stack up against other systems and such. And then we ended up re-engaging way back in 2023 to go live. And as we were talking, you mentioned to me a little bit about the comparison process of comparing, say, Epicor to, let's say, NetSuite, for instance, and what led you to go down one path versus another. Tell me a little bit about those differentiators that guide you as a customer in selecting Epicor as the ERP system to run your business.
I mean, it's been a little while, but I mean, for me, the things that we were focused on at the time was obviously we wanted something that could be custom configurated, which Epicor is a very nice, clean slate for a configured part, and also Epicor has a fantastic manufacturing module. And what I'm saying is that it's all incorporated in. One of the things that I was not a big fan of on the NetSuite was there was a lot of third-party apps where you can buy into. And my problem is, and what I've realized, and I'm no different as a human being, is, and when I have a problem, I'm going to call one person, and they're going to find out the solution. If I have to hear, well, that's an app that is merged in with the program, so I don't know if it's what they did or what we did. Well, it's like, okay, well, what's the solution? Well, we need to work together over a period of time to figure out even what the problem is, because it could be the module and the way it was installed. It could be that you put in bad data on the third party app that now doesn't correlate into NetSuite. And there's just a lot of variables where it's like with Epicor, we're doing everything within Epicor. Everything lives within Epicor. So if there's a problem, we can get on the phone and figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that value of a kind of a unified, comprehensive ERP solution seemed really valuable at the time.
Yeah, and it's worked out great. I mean, the hard part is you took a 60-year-old company that's been running up the same software for almost 20 years,
Right.
and the implementation. I feel the implementation was more of a business study than it was an implementation, because you sit there and get asked questions by guys like yourself and guys at Epicor that they're so knowledgeable on production that it opens your eyes to, like, we need to reevaluate everything we're doing to make sure that we're doing it the best way possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really something that seems real pertinent. That when you were in the software selection process and we were just bantering back and forth, you'd be saying, "Well, the system needs to do that because we do this," and then you'd kind of stop yourself and go, "Boy, I don't know if we really need to do this. What do you think? Do we need to do this? I don't know if we need to do this. We've been always doing it this way." And you were in that process mentally where you were constantly kind of pulling yourself back and questioning these business requirements, because they may not be business requirements. They might just be bad habits. So tell me a little bit about kind of that process of what the process of selecting and implementing a software taught you about your own company.
Oh, I mean, a tremendous amount. It was just an eye opener in so many ways, because just like you said, we're doing certain things certain ways because it's the way we've always done it. But the way, a good group of people around us, and obviously, having people like yourself that really can. What I've realized is I don't call myself stupid, but I felt stupid in the aspect of, like, it wasn't that I didn't know the answer. I didn't know the questions to ask during implementation. Meaning, like, you sit down with some of these people and they'll sit there and ask you questions and go like, "Well, do you have any questions?" And you're like, "No, I don't." Well, all of a sudden it's like, a year later, you're sitting there going like, "Wait a minute. That's the answer I'm looking for, but I didn't know the question to even get the answer." So meaning, like, there was so much knowledge about, process. And the problem is we're a very customized business. We're not that we don't do the same thing everyone else does. We don't do, it there's a lot of things that are custom to what we do. And there's not a lot of rear end manufacturers out there that do what we do or our processes. So there had to become a lot of questions asked, and a lot of questions asked by guys like yourself and even people at Epicor that really opened our eyes to going like, okay, let's reevaluate what we're doing and how we're doing it to see if there's a way that basically the system can take care of more of the job and not so many people doing manual process.
Right. Right. Yeah. Trying to find those places where processes that were very much held in a couple of people who are kind of your core people, and realizing that those processes can be disseminated once you manage to standardize them, take all that tribal knowledge out and put it into the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. In terms of like getting familiarized with the system, I always see customers at go live implementation. I don't always get to keep up with them as they migrate along in their journey. You guys are now probably 18 months in. What in terms of that timeline of getting comfortable in your system with your core team? How long did it take for them to get comfortable in transacting in the system on a daily basis, and what did that ramp up look like?
Well, I don't know, because every day I always say, boy, it feels like we're still on day one, because as soon as we get good at what we're doing, we realize there's another threshold of
Mm,
knowledge below what we were already at. But honestly, for us, I put a stand on that. I have a fantastic group of people that work for me, but it just came that we were kept prolonging our go live, and I put the hardcore kibosh that we're going live January 1st, and we're going all in. And obviously, it was very stressful and overwhelming. But honestly, only for about 3 months. After about 3 months, the shop was managing, and we were rocking and a rolling. Now, from that, I would say we're at 20% of where we're at today, and I still feel like we have a lot to learn. But I would say 3 months, it was gnarly, stressful, because there was processes that were done wrong, and people were scanning at the wrong times, and then it was closing out jobs early, and closing, jobs were being
mm,
left open, and sales orders couldn't be shipped because the job wasn't closed, and there's a lot of these things that we had to learn, and we just never had done before as a business. So it wasn't that we didn't know the question asked, and the only
mm,
way to learn was it happening. But
right.
I did not do a lot of testing with the guys in the shop. I'm very blessed that I have a great group of guys in the shop that understand what we build on a day-to-day basis. So with a little bit of description and their knowledge, the company kept moving forward, which was great. But with that, a lot of data cleanup, and we brought over a lot of good data, but there was some bad data in there as well that just had some holes that created problems. But I would say, after the 6 month mark, things are really starting to move, and now we're starting to be able to pull data out of there that we've never pulled before. And now I look at it going like, the data we have now is unbelievable, right? And the way we're managing and running the business is more off data rather than off of the owners and the feeling of what is good and bad. And I think that's helping our inventory numbers and where we're focusing the business on.
Nice, nice. So you come back to reporting and data. Do you think that for you has been kind of one of the biggest benefits of implementing ERP, the ability to take that data once you've stabilized and use that for decision making and strategic planning?
Absolutely. The data, I mean, we live off the data now. It's just a numbers thing. So now for us, the data we're pulling from the system every day is we're being able to analyze trends. We're being able to look at future forecasting, and we're, looking at the history already, and actually being able to put, our focus on inventory and our focus on, sales is getting better, because even from now, everybody in the shop, it's just getting easier, right? Because now they're having better control of parts. Cells have more control of what's popular, not popular. So it is making everybody's job a little bit easier. There has definitely been a shuffle of people though as well.
Mm. In terms of people based on kind of competencies and where their skills go. I know ERP sometimes, and you've had that some of the core team members that I was working with, some really solid folks that an ERP implementation is kind of a way to kind of give them a little bit of nitro, and they just kind of blow up after that in terms of what they're able to accomplish for the company.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's where I feel like now, we're using people in different ways, and it's only making things better. So it's been good. It's honestly, it's been a hell of a year, but honestly, it's been a fantastic year, because now I look at it, the base is put in, and the progress is really going to start this year. So it's been exciting.
Super. It's funny because you mentioned when the first thing you said was, "Boy, every day we learn something." I feel we're at square one because we realize how much more there is to learn. I don't want to use a Donald Trump metaphor, but it's like every time you get better, you drain the swamp a little bit more, and it raises up a whole bunch of stumps, and then you cut out those stumps, and you get better, and then you drain it another layer, and you just what happens, and a bunch of more stumps. It's kind of cyclical process of bettering yourself as you get better in the system.
It's a great metaphor, because it really is. The problems we have today weren't even problems a year ago, because we didn't even know we had these problems. So
Right.
I would agree 100%.
Well, that's a good problem to have. Now, kind of looking forward to the future. Just today I was on watching a webinar that had Epicor's 3-year roadmap presented to us, and it was pretty exciting. Lots of new things on the horizon, lots of different changes from a technical and delivery standpoint, things that they can offer for customers like yourself. But from an ERP standpoint for you and Currie, what are your next set of Epicor priorities or ERP priorities to better leverage the system to drive you forward?
I think the biggest drive forward is starting to utilize more of the other assets that are available. For example, would be we still do some things where we print out travelers,
Mm.
where starting to get into using tablets to be able to control when jobs are started and when jobs are finished, and utilization of prints and all the documentation to be live on a screen. Right now, if we took all that information and printed it out, give you 5 or 6 pieces of paper per job, and we have a couple hundred jobs going through the shop at one time. That's a lot of paper and a lot of waste, but it's also a lot of maybe somebody grabbed page two of somebody else's page two.
Hmm.
And I think we want to start getting more on the technology side for the shop to make it so that we are utilizing all of Epicor's assets when it comes to the technology standpoint in the shop, to make it when it comes to getting real time and making sure that we're really looking at start and stop as far as how much time every job is taken for direct labor. Those are things that I'm focused on right now that we're going to start implementing to really just make sure that we're doing our costing correctly.
Nice. Yeah, you really learn. ERP really gives you an opportunity to understand your costs better, and you start bumping that up against what you're selling it to the market, and understanding what your winning products are versus for the ones that are you're kind of losing your butt on. I know so many businesses that believe that they have certain good product mixes, and then they implement ERP and they realize their actual product mix, and it tends to tell them a whole lot of things that they didn't know before.
Oh, 100%. What I thought was the most beautiful product we made that made us the most money is the least profitable thing we make, and a product that we made every day is just easy, but you don't even care about it because it's just been there forever. All of a sudden, it's this goal that you're saying like, okay, we need to reevaluate, pay attention, and let's start pushing more sales that way. So I mean, absolutely.
Nice, nice. So let's shift gears again here a little bit. Talk a little bit about marketing and branding. Now, when I was at Currie and you showed me around, first off, when you took me to your man cave where all your vehicles were, and you had this chassis of a Mustang sitting on blocks and this monstrous engine hanging off a chain, it was like seventh heaven. I had to take pictures to show off to all the guys at my work here. But another thing you showed me was just all the work that you guys are doing in terms of marketing, presentation, branding. You guys got a real handle on that. This is all stuff you could outsource it, but you've chose to keep that in-house. Tell me a little bit about the logic behind that approach.
I mean, I'm just going. For me, I'm a true believer in what we do, and I love the brand so much. I'm no different than my dad, and I'm no different than my grandfather as well. That we just love what we do, and for me, my hobbies include everything Currie Enterprise builds. So when it comes to the man cave, the race shop, it really is. My hobbies are this. I'm going to go out and test the product as hard as I can. I'm going to drive everything I own and abuse it so that I can make sure that obviously what we're doing is the correct thing for our end consumer. Because the last thing I want to hear is, well, you guys are promoting this, some agency's promoting this, but you're actually doing it this way. So for myself, I'm a true believer in like what you see on all my social media, what you see on Currie Enterprises social media, what you see in all of our marketing ads and all of our campaigns that we do. It's true testimony to our product that we truly believe in what we sell.
Nice, nice. Your marketing's all written in your own blood. I like that. So speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about the interchange between Casey Currie Motorsports and Currie Enterprises, because I feel a lot of that crossplay. Back to my TSA story, those two kind of go hand in hand. Does the racing exposure you have and all the Currie decals that are on your vehicles, does that help raise the profile of the overall Currie brand?
Yeah, I think they work together hand in hand. I think everything we've done as a team, and even my dad and what he's allowed us to do, the racing aspect gets in front of a lot of eyeballs. And we built a very unique Jeep that I race full time, and it ties into the Jeep axles we build. And for us, it's all about performance. So when it comes to racing and showing our product being used in abusive situations and trying to win or winning. Yeah, absolutely. It brings back to eyeballs to Currie Enterprises. So that way people can come and realize that, we do sell rear ends for a lot of different things. Because from racing, you know, if they start following me on social media because of something I did at a race or being out at an event, there's a lot of guys that own Ford Mustangs that also own a Jeep.
Mhm.
And if they didn't have that correlation, they would never have purchased. So, the racing side ties very well into everything we do at Currie, not only on the off road side, but on the on road side as well, because I know I have a lot of friends that own a hot rods that own Jeeps. So, with that being said, we do a lot of things in correlation that tie in together. And it does make it fun for everybody as well.
Right. So when we last met, I think this was on our way back from Shabu Shabu. Now, for those of you who don't know Korean hot pot cooking, I highly recommend it. Now, of course I'm out of Wisconsin, and our food options here are somewhat limited. Compared to the greater LA area. So your guys were nice enough to take and kind of do the whole thing, right? We were burritos one day, shabu shabu the next. We were at a kebab house the next. It was glorious. I had to go on a New Year's resolution diet immediately following. For multiple reasons, but when we were heading back from there, you were talking a little bit about all of the more business process things that were driving you and exciting you in terms of people building, teamwork, communication. There's a lot of pieces to that puzzle, things that go well beyond ERP. They certainly underlie a successful ERP, but they go well beyond that. Or any current strategic initiatives or such that have you excited?
I mean, for me, I love process. So everything to do with beginning with raw material and going all the way to finished goods. With even design work, and I call myself an Imagineer. I'm not an engineer by any means, but I can draw it on a piece of paper and look at what structure is, and then work with an engineer to make it beautiful, and have an engineer tell me that it could work or not work, and also have an engineer that works with me to make it even better than what I had envisioned. But with that being said, process is just so important, and knowing all the roles of all the people and really having that team behind you, because without a team nothing is possible. And something that, I mean, this whole transition into a new ERP system has taught me is you have to have a fantastic group of people that are willing to rely on the goals and vision from top level, to really have the strategy and plan to make everything work. And that's what I would say is working on process. And it's funny because people go like, "Man, you change again." I'm like, "It's not that I changed; it's the fact that there's a better way to do it." And the
Mm.
problem was I didn't even know. We're on revision C of that process, and I'm telling you right now, at revision A, I didn't even know B existed, let alone C. So if we're going to sit there and look at process and look at how people are utilized and making sure that everyone is being used to their full capacity, it's something that I enjoy doing, and I really do love being around great minds and people that work really hard.
Nice. Nice. Kind of to that note, just yesterday I was in a meeting with Udi Bryant from a company called Rubber Tree. They're a software solution provider, and she's in a role somewhat analogous to yours in that she's working with the engineers on one side and she's working with the customer on the other. And she's trying to understand customer needs, customer preferences, customer feedback, and then translate that into something that she can give folks to improve the product. So, from a product management strategy, what has been your approach there? One, for trying to understand customer requirements, and two, maybe trying to predict them as they evolve.
I mean, for us, we're out. We use all of our products. We go to a lot of the biggest events across the country. We try to pay attention to everything going on at these events to make sure that we're state of the art and that we have the capabilities of what are today's standards. And then at that time, trying to look ahead to see how we can be better than what is out there right now. So for myself, like, definitely not trying to stay complacent, always looking at striving to be better. And with that, really focusing on becoming better all the time. I always look at myself that I'm not good enough and I want to be better. And with Currie Enterprises, I think that progress comes from us being involved as the owners, and really caring about the end consumer and making sure that they have the quality product they need, and then working backwards all the way to engineering and starting the process of the next product.
Nice. Nice. And as we start to wrap up here, I want to just talk about the concept of family a little bit. Now, as we've mentioned several times, you're working from a family business, so there's lots of interchange. And when I was out there with you, I was working with family members, in-laws, parents, etc. It was a family affair. Now, what about the next generation? Do they see a future in manufacturing? Do you got any of them, screwing in rivets on the shop floor yet, or you chased them all away? Any of them have aspirations to follow Uncle Casey and hit the racing track?
Well, I mean, for me, my two boys are 8, 9, and I don't know yet. It's scary because you look at how much work and stress it is, and but honestly, for me, if the foundation is to never let this place go. We love it. It's not a money. It's not a company we want to flip. It's our name, right? Our name is stamped everywhere, and my goal would be that to see my boys work here one day and take it over would be amazing. But also running a family business is very difficult, right?
Mm.
There's a lot going on all the time, and between growth and strategy, and I don't know. It's difficult, but I would say that for me, there's no free rides. My dad and my grandpa still does at a young age that there was no free rides. I didn't ever work for Currie Enterprises, and I was 36 years old when I took my first paycheck from Currie Enterprises.
Nice.
So there was no I'm going to own this place one day. So that was never the case. So with my boys, I'm probably going to do the same thing, and I don't know. They got to go to school. Knowledge is so key these days, and learn having ways to learn. I just want them to do whatever's best, and they love what I do. They do love it. They love racing. They have the passion for it. So doing what we do and driving, and they love it all. So if they fall in love with it, we'll take that when it comes. But right now they're got a long ways to go.
When I was in my early 20s, I worked for a lumber yard, and they had big families. So every new family member, they would have to spend their time hauling drywall to the customers, and it ended up breaking everyone's back, and they all quit the business and moved out. So they had a lumber yard and no kids to run it anyway. So I think that's a cool thing. So in terms of your own racing future, what's the next big race on the horizon?
Well, we just finished King of the Hammers and the Mint 400. Right now, we're actually doing some new motor upgrades. We're changing some things, and we're going to make everything better. But with that, I'm going to do probably Vegas to Reno in August, and I got Crandon in September in Wisconsin, actually. And
Oh,
then,
Brandon,
yeah,
awesome,
and
awesome.
then
I'll look for that.
a lot of Jeep events. We're going to be out in Moab. We'll be at Moab, Utah in 2 weeks. I'll be in Daytona, Florida 2 weeks after that. I got guys going to Texas tomorrow. I mean, we got events going on all over the place.
Sweet. Well, good luck to you with all those in the future, and I'll have to check out Crandon. That's actually not more than an hour north of me, so I'll
No
have to.
way.
Yeah, yeah, I'll have
Come
to.
on.
Sweet,
We'll
sweet.
make
We'll
that
we'll,
happen.
we'll split a monster.
You got it, man.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up here. So as we wrap up the hour, Casey, I really want to thank you for such a great conversation. Always love to sit down and talk shop with you.
You got it, man. Thank you very much for the time.
Awesome. And for those in the audience who want to look further, I really recommend looking into Casey's website at caseykirry.com. I'd also recommend looking up Casey's YouTube page, some really cool racing videos there. And if you want more info on Casey's business life at Currie Enterprises, I would recommend checking out currieenterprises.com. One other note, an edited version of this recording will be released in due time to our YouTube feed. For those who might want to check this out again, follow up on a specific topic. And we look forward to more of these conversations in the future. So thanks again, everyone. And thank you, Casey, and everyone have a great day.